A man stabbed to death in a suspected anti-gay attack in Brooklyn, New York City was remembered as a talented and promising dancer. As law enforcement said, a 17-year-old high school student is the main suspect in regards to the crime. So this is in regards to a tragedy which occurred on Saturday evening at a gas station on Coney Island Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Essentially, there were two groups of men. One group included the victim, his name O'Shea Sibley, 28 years of age, as well as his friends. We're not quite sure how many friends, but I believe all of the friends were gay, homosexuals. Certainly O'Shea Sibley was. Is that point relevant? Yes, it's relevant. This is believed to have been a hate crime. It's believed that O'Shea Sibley was stabbed to death in the chest by a 17-year-old boy who claimed that the part of the group that he was in, or the second group that he was a part of, was Muslim and that they don't like gays. Apparently, that's what they were screaming, according to one of the witnesses. One of O'Shea Sibley's friends said that the other group was screaming, "We are Muslims and we don't like gays." And then a brawl broke out. Tragically, O'Shea Sibley was stabbed in the chest, believed to be by a 17-year-old high school student who fled the scene in a black SUV. And as of Monday, a couple of days ago, no arrests had been made. O'Shea Sibley stabbed in the chest. His friends gather around him, try to provide medical aid as best they can, try to stop what one of the witnesses described as the squirting of his blood. O'Shea was taken to a medical center where tragically he passed away. Full condolences to all family and friends of the victim, O'Shea Sibley. His family must be absolutely devastated. His fellow students, I believe he was a student studying dance, described as a talented and promising dancer. So it's an absolute tragedy. The friends that were there are going to be traumatized by witnessing this event. So I'm going to go back to the subject of the gayness of the hate crime aspect. So as I say, two groups of people. One of the groups with O'Shea Sibley were gay men. O'Shea Sibley himself was shirtless and he was wearing neon pink swimming trunks. A pretty gay outfit, if I'm allowed to say that, a pretty gay outfit. O'Shea was also voguing, which is a modern stylized dance, voguing, popularized by Madonna back in the 90s. So I'm going to say, and I believe I'm allowed to say this, that O'Shea Sibley and presumably his friends were acting in an overtly gay manner, wearing outrageously flamboyant outfits. O'Shea only wearing neon pink swimming trunks, that's all, nothing else. That's pretty gay. Am I allowed to say that? I think I am. We're allowed to say that, aren't we? I mean, that's a pretty gay, flamboyant, obviously homosexual outfit to wear. If I am saying the wrong things, please educate me in the comment section. But overtly gay. Now, the other group allegedly was screaming, "We are Muslims and we don't like gays." So if that was what was shouted, we have surveillance footage. I don't know if we have surveillance audio, but if that was shouted by the person that stabbed O'Shea Sibley, which we believe to be a 17-year-old high school student, if they did shout, "We're Muslims and we don't like gays," and then proceeded to stab O'Shea Sibley in the chest, then I would have to say that, yeah, that seems a pretty clear-cut case of a hate crime, in my opinion. And I'm going to make a comment in regards to that. It's perhaps a bit of a silly comment. I'm going to say that I think it's okay if one group, let's say, for example, a religious group, yeah? I think it's okay if one group doesn't like another group. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's okay not to like everybody. I think that's perfectly fine, perfectly normal, and even if it's deemed to be wrong, that's how our brains work. We have preferences. We don't have to like every person. We don't have to like every group. We don't have to like every culture. We don't have to like every subculture, etc., etc. It's perfectly fine. Hang on, let me back up a little bit. It's not quite perfectly fine, but it is understandable. Hang on. It's perfectly fine for a group of Muslims, let's say, to not like gays, in my opinion. And even if it isn't fine, you can't stop it. You know, if a group of people, for whatever reason, religious reasons or otherwise, if they dislike another group, it is what it is. Can you stop it? I mean, I'm not in the power to stop what other people's preferences are, by and large. So I think that's okay. I'm not saying it's ideal, but I think it's okay and to be expected that some groups are not going to like other groups. So if these Muslims were offended by the overt gayness, the overt homosexual flamboyancy of the gay men that were there, I think it's okay for the Muslims not to have liked that. I even think to an extent that it's okay for them to shout and scream, "We don't like gays." I think that's okay. I'm very pro freedom of speech. I haven't given this a great deal of thought. If I had, I probably wouldn't make this video. But I think it's okay for them to shout that. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I'm not saying it's something that I would do. I'm not saying that it isn't rude. It is rude, yeah? But they're entitled to do it. Freedom of speech and all of that. It's not the worst thing in the world for them to think that they don't like that group over there for this reason, that reason. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if they vocalize that. Having said all of that, which is perhaps, as I say, a little silly thing to have said, but anyway, I have said it. Having said all of that, obviously there is no justification in any degree of physical violence against another group. None whatsoever. In fact, any kind of actual discrimination, if they had acted in a way which would in any way harm the other group, then that would not be acceptable. And these guys, or this one person, harmed O'Shea Sibley in the worst possible way. Completely unnecessary, completely psychotic, in my opinion. I don't mean that in the technical manner, I just mean it in like the layman sense. What is wrong with this 17-year-old high school student if indeed he is the guilty party? Why can't he control himself? Okay, you don't like them, fine, carry on. Stand there, don't like them. That's fine. You don't have to like them. That's fine. You want to shout out that you don't like them? Whatever. I mean, it's pretty rude. It's pretty unnecessary. It's creating problems, but whatever, it's not the worst thing in the world. If you really feel the need to shout that out, then shout it out, whatever, dude. But to go further and enact violence, to go further and stab a man in the chest, that's just psychopathic, and that is a hate crime. And I really do hope that the scumbag is caught. Gonna throw in another thought as well. My understanding is, and I could very well be wrong on this, but my understanding is that in most states and other countries, the United Kingdom, perhaps Australia, not sure, hate crimes normally lead to a higher sentence, typically. When a perpetrator has been deemed guilty of a serious crime, and also that serious crime, such as murder, has been deemed a hate crime, the sentencing is going to be heavier than if the crime was not deemed a hate crime. I'm going to say I don't think I agree with that. I don't think I do. I don't really understand the reasoning there, to be honest with you. I mean, the bad aspect is the actions that were taken, the horrific actions that were taken at the cost of a man's life. The stabbing, the murdering. That's the bad part. I don't think it really matters a great deal as to why the murderer killed another person, is my feeling. Like, I don't think the motives should determine the sentencing. But hey, what do I know? I'm a layman. I'm not an expert in this kind of thing, but that's my feeling. So I think I've gone on a bit of a ramble there. I've dropped my thoughts, and perhaps you massively disagree with them. And if so, that's perfectly fine. Please feel free to drop some notes in the comments. You don't have to be polite about it. You can be rude about it if you like. So I might just re-listen to this video before I pop it up live, make sure I haven't overstepped the mark too much. But if you do appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit, and take care.